recording.
Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mayor Reese,
Here.
Here.
Nelson. Here. Davis.
Here.
Schultes.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Butterfield.
Here.
Osmus.
Here.
Fagerly.
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we ask for proposed additions or deletions, 10A will be pulled. Is there any other additions or deletions?
Move to approve the agenda.
Second. We have a motion to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, consent items. Judy?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval the City Council minutes of April 3rd, City Council work session minutes of April 10th, Municipal Utilities Commission minutes of April 10th, Planning Commission minutes of March 15th, Accounts Payable Report from March 29th through April 11th, a resolution to consider renewal of a hangar lease agreement with the state of Minnesota, a resolution for beverage and vending agreement with Viking Coca-Cola Bottling Company, Versa Vending, Willmar High School Trap Team lawful gambling application, and a resolution authorizing signers for investment documents. For council's information, the building report, March 2023.
Okay, what I mentioned to you earlier today on the planning commission, I don't have to bring that up here?
Correct.
Okay. All right. We need a motion to approve that?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That's a roll call, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, roll call.
Councilmember Osk,
Aye.
Nelson. Aye. Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, we have no items removed from the agenda. We have the open forum. We have one, Kelly Tarisha. 3 minutes, Kelly.
I'll try and talk real fast. Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, I come tonight as representative of Willmar 10 and Terwisha Construction regarding the City Hall and item 10D on your agenda today. Seeing that you are considering extending services with an architectural firm regarding the City Hall and the J.C. Penney site is a little concerning and confusing to me since my firm is working on the design of the J.C. Penney's for our proposal. It seems very duplicative to be hiring another firm to be doing the same work. So it's very confusing, and having had zero discussion regarding that with the city staff, I'm just kind of curious as to where we're at, because we're expending a lot of time, money, and effort into this proposal. And now we're seeing that there's other things happening behind the scenes as well. Also, in regard to that, it was mentioned in there that something about the Willmar 10 proposal being done without a bid process. That has never been communicated to Willmar 10 that's a concern. That was developed as a part of two and a half years ago when we started the process, from Willmar 10's attorney and the city attorney talking about what method might work for the City Hall project to be able to be done at the J.C. Penney site and what would be the most expeditious manner. And the discussion then was that as a developer, a build-to-suit situation would be the most advantageous and the most cost-effective and the quickest timeline. So if there is concern about that, there's many other ways to accomplish a project. We were pursuing the same method that was discussed a couple years ago.
Well, my understanding, I don't know, I maybe refer to. Oh, yeah, I'm not supposed to say it. That's right. So I'll leave it at that, Kelly.
Okay, I don't know if
Thank
I
you for your comments.
used my 3 minutes, but thank you.
All right. Next, we have a public hearing on ordinance for Teflon rezoning. Justice?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Pull this up. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so it's a nice public hearing for the Teflon rezone. So I'm just gonna start with giving you an overview of the request for the rezone, and then kind of how staff got there, and then a visual of the site as well. And then I'll be open to any questions. So there's this get pulled up. There we go. All right. All right, so Mr. Teflon came into, I guess first, so Mr. Teflon's a business owner on Highway 12 East. He owns a car dealership, and he bought an adjacent property to his existing car dealership, and he started storing cars on it. And so staff reached out to him about, hey, you're kind of exceeding the limit here. This is a residential area. You should look to probably either move or rezone the property. And so a couple months went by, and then Mr. Teflon came in, and he needed a zoning verification for his license for the state. So that's kind of how a lot of this started. And so then with that, for the needing the zoning verification, he was claiming 2 parcels instead of the one that was the original car lot. And so then from there, staff recommended a rezone, and then the planning commission approved the rezone. So now we're here. And so here's the 2 sites, so we're clear. So the 2 X's, the sites with the two parcels with the 2 X's on it. The narrower one is the original. And I guess he bought the wider lot where the house is, and then he started storing cars on it in L shape. And so that was when staff reached out to him. He never got any violations or anything, but it was just more a conversation with staff of like, hey, you really should think about an idea, think about an alternative about what this is going to look like. This isn't going to fly. So then from there, when Mr. Teflon came in looking for the zoning verification to renew his license with the state, we just figured it'd be a lot easier to rezone it, just around what was going. So the reasoning, general business is already contiguous with this area. I know how it looks like the skinny lot is R2 and needs to be rezoned as well. That is incorrect. There are several inconsistencies in the zoning map that we're working on, and we're working off a different map. We just need to put it on the website and also have the county publish it, or I guess like the people who administer the map publish it. But then Highway 12 East corridor already has a lot of these uses, and so I mean it's really industrial. I mean, you got from girly foods, you got like the it's like the entire service road on both sides. I mean, really kind of more of the general business feel, just kind of like a smattering of businesses there. And then the lot also meets the dimension requirements for general business. And then I think like the main reason that we kind of run into these things is just where retroactive zoning just kind of creates inconsistencies. And so Willmar kind of adopted zoning after a lot of structures are already up and existing. And this is kind of one of the things that you run into when there's a lot of single district zoning, instead of kind of looking at a more, I think, flexible, more modern type of zoning, which is a form-based code that more so regulates the form of the building instead of like the actual use. And so just kind of in this situation, I think there was a lot of prescriptive thought kind of put in with where we're going to put residential, where we're going to put general business. But sometimes that just doesn't work out. Sometimes like how you want a corridor to develop versus how it actually does develop differ. And I think in this regard, like I said, I mean, it's really just general business kind of all the way through, I think up until for a couple more blocks. I mean, even when you see like the car dealership to the left there, that's on the west side of those 3 lots. So that was the reason of how we got to the rezone for Mr. Teflon. So with that, I'll answer any questions.
All right. I got a question. What 2 streets are that on the east and west?
Hold on, let me get back to the bigger one. Yeah, I guess I don't have that in the picture, but
Anthony and Highway 12, Litchfield Avenue.
Anthony is,
A block west.
yeah, I know where Anthony is, but I'm trying to picture in regards to,
Great big yellow house is on the property.
yeah, like yellow orangish. Yeah, yeah, it's on a hill.
right on Anthony, right on the corner of Anthony and Highway 12.
Yep.
Okay. Yep, okay, now I got it. All right. Julie?
Is this consistent with what we did on West Highway 12 over by the old Taco John's grocery store? You wouldn't know that one.
So so you're referring to like the grocery store that we didn't allow because of the rezone, or?
The people that wanted to build a house.
Oh,
Oh, that was in the, by that, the one grocery
Taco
store.
John's.
Well, yeah, but Holiday Gas Station?
oh, yeah. Over there. Yeah, I guess.
Is this consistent with what we ruled there? Because we just said that we wouldn't approve for a house to go in there, and that was all going to be business.
Yeah. And so I guess kind of that would be consistent, but I guess like the thing that's relevant to this, that's also relevant to rezoning kind of coming down the line, with the amendment in 2021 or 2020 to that, like that housing was allowed in the general business district through a conditional use permit. That does open up the general business to housing, and I know like the future use for this building is going to be a multifamily unit. And so he pointed that out. I don't know the timeline on that, but initially, I mean, he's just kind of using this as storage. It's just kind of tire sales, works on cars, sells cars, all sorts of things. And so he really was really trying to work like out of good faith, like with the city. The city asked him to move stuff. City asked him to acquire more properties. He bought land, moved cars all over the place. He just kind of has lots and a lot of cars apparently.
Tom?
Yeah, my question would be for the attorney. Now, how is this going to play along with the city line towing, where they kind of move forward before the 8 ball, before they got all their I's and T's crossed? You know, they've had cars there for about a month now. Now did we set the precedence with city line towing when they came in front of us?
Mayor, members of the council, not sure if that was a question for me, but in my mind, these are 2 different issues. We're talking about what zoning district this property should be placed within. On the city line towing issue, we were talking about, can a private business make use of city property? And we had an item come before the council to consider whether or not to grant permission to make such use on certain terms and conditions or not. And the city council made a decision, as it has the right to do as owner of the property. I think they're different questions.
No, that answered it.
Audrey?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. When did this go before the Planning Commission? I tried to look for it in the Planning Commission minutes. I don't see it, and I don't see any staff recommendations or what the Planning Commission recommendation was regarding this.
So it's April, I'd say February, because Mr. Teflon really wasn't in a hurry as far as like when all of this was going to get through. I know kind of with some of the things of how like the publishing dates worked out, like he was more, because initially we were like, we can run this concurrently and we can get them both through like February and then we'll go March. And I was like, well, just kind of how the meetings fall, want to like run into April. And he was like, that's fine. It didn't matter to him. So like we decided in February, and the staff recommendation was for the rezone for these reasons.
Okay, but we have no documentation on that, and that's something, there wasn't Planning Commission minutes in the last meeting. This one doesn't reference it at all. Could we please get that documentation, the actual staff recommendations, and what the Planning Commission voted on, and the minutes before we do this?
All right.
If we pass this, do they have to put in screening around the lots?
No, they don't. So actually, when we had the public hearing at the planning commission, the neighbors to the south there showed up to the meeting. They're really just more concerned because they have a shared driveway. And so as long as nothing was changing and nothing was going to affect their shared driveway, they really didn't want to stop it. They were for it. They felt that Mr. Tevlon had been a really good neighbor, that if they ever had any issues, that he would address them, and that a lot of the issues that they had, which weren't many, weren't his fault. They were just people using the wrong side of the address, or they were going to that side of the property and then putting cars there, kind of thing. And so Mr. Tevlon was really more of just kind of, I guess, like bad addressing from Google or something. But yeah, that was more his issue and their issue with it. They just wanted to make sure they weren't going to lose access to their shared driveway.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, we've got this ready for a motion to adopt the same number and publish it.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, we need to open the public hearing.
Okay. I will do that. We'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak to it other than Justice? If not, then I close the hearing. All right, I'll close the hearing. And we need a motion to adopt, assign a number, and publish it. And this is a 2/3 vote. Has to be 2/3 for it to pass.
And just so the council understands, 2/3 would require 6 council members to vote in favor of the ordinance, for the ordinance to pass. That's because we're zoning, or the proposal is to rezone a residentially zoned parcel to commercial or industrial, which triggers a supermajority vote requirement under the Planning Act.
If we, if Councilmember Nelson had asked now that we delay the decision, what do we do?
In that event, my recommendation would be if one or more council members wants to have the council consider postponing this decision until more information is received, the motion would be to table, which is really a motion to postpone the debate on the item before you. So I would, I guess, recommend that. And then there will be some potential follow-up actions staff would have to do to make sure there's a timeline that from the point the application is made, the council must act on the request within 60 days, but the city does have the ability to extend that another 60 days. So that's a staff administrative issue that would be a follow-up if the council were to table this item tonight.
Okay, so I'm either looking for a motion to adopt, assign a number, and publish it, or a motion to delay it. Julie?
So I'm curious, what does this do for the project? That's my first question, if we were to delay it. And then the second question, you mentioned something about that he was thinking of putting in housing units. Then we'd have to rezone it again, correct?
No, we wouldn't. So due to the amendment in 20, I want to say it's 2021, 2020. It's one of those. That amendment allows for housing to be built in the general business district, like with Preserve on 24th.
Okay.
Yep. And so it would just be a conditional use permit. It's an addition. It's a different part of the process, but it doesn't have to be rezoned.
Okay.
Yes, Tom?
How many units are they looking at having in that house? Or are they looking to tear it down and rebuilding, or?
I think it'd just be a remodel of the existing structure. So my understanding, I'd say 2 to 4.
Justin?
Councilmember Osmus asked a question about what happens if the motion is tabled tonight. What does that do to the project?
He's pretty indifferent. So I think he's been pretty accommodating. I think a lot of times, like sometimes, like there's pressure associated with things. I think with this one, he's just kind of like, take your time, make a decision. It's kind of where he's at.
Thank you.
Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So he's gonna fix up the existing house and as a duplex or a fourplex or something?
Yep.
Okay. I know there's been many complaints of where he's at now with cars and tires. Because I know Sarah Swedberg, when she worked here, she went to visit them a few times. So it's a disaster there. And if he's going to have housing there, he's still going to use part of the yard for more vehicles. Is there a limit on how many vehicles he can park there?
Yeah, so I think that's something that he's open to. I think when we've talked to him, because now he has like another lot. There's a third or fourth lot somewhere else that he's been moving cars to. So I think just as far as like working with Mr. Tevlin, I think he's open to conversation about cleaning it up, moving lots, like moving the cars appropriately, and like minimizing storage or like screening from the sites.
I was going to say, it's kind of a gateway to Willmar. And it doesn't look pretty now. And I can't believe it's going to get any better. So we got to have some rules and regulations. So, thanks.
Audrey?
I just want to clarify, am I correct that we have not seen the minutes?
No, you have. Oh, yeah. Like the last minutes were like we're up to date on minutes for the planning commission.
The minutes that are in our packet tonight do not reference this at all. And there were no minutes in the previous meeting. And so you said that this took place in February?
Yeah, February, because there was a time where there was where the planning commission gathered, but we didn't have quorum, so there were no minutes from that meeting.
Well, then you didn't meet.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to table this. It feels like there's lots of things, and request that the planning commission review this before we go ahead, and that we see the documentation from that in minutes in an actual quorum meeting.
Oh,
Do we have a second?
Second.
We got a second. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I think he has more to say about that.
yeah. So thank you. This meeting was this was reviewed, and the public hearing was held in a meeting with quorum. The reason there were no minutes, I think there's a gap in minutes because there was a meeting in March where there was no quorum. This was decided on in February where there was a quorum meeting. I understand that when there is no quorum, there is no meeting held, but that is not what happened. This was held in an open meeting. There are minutes that reflect this. There is documentation. So I just want to make it clear that this was not decided in a meeting with no record. This was decided in a meeting with a public hearing where there was quorum. I just wanted to say that. That's
So the
it.
planning commission minutes would have come. It just isn't in this package.
Right. Just because there's been a lag in this coming because of the public notices that are required. There's been a lag between when that was reviewed by the planning commission and when that made it here. That's it.
Kyle?
This was approved by the council in March.
Yeah. So this was approved by the planning commission in March on the March 1st meeting.
In tonight's packet?
March 20th council packet.
Where do I go with this, Robert?
Mayor, members of the council, I heard a motion to table, and I believe there was a vote taken.
Yes, there was.
To my ear, it appeared that the motion passed.
Yeah.
That means I think you're ready to move on unless someone wants to offer a motion to reconsider that motion, that action that was just taken.
Okay, unless I hear something different.
I will make a motion to reconsider.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to reconsider.
So now for the council's benefit, the motion to reconsider, you would take a vote, and the vote is essentially whether to restore the agenda item, because I don't think you had a motion to pass the ordinance yet.
No.
So you're basically going to undo your motion to table this item, bring it back to the council, and restore the discussion that you had before the motion to table.
Is there discussion on this motion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Discussion. Julie?
Move Rick's head. Okay. You couldn't see me. Okay, if I have this straight, the issue was that we didn't have the minutes. from the vote that it went through the planning commission, but now we have established that we did. What further information would we be delaying for? That, yeah.
Councilmember Nelson.
I would request that someone read us those minutes, that we would at least have the documentation from what the planning commission did. With that, if, I think Mr. Box found it, if we can just take the time to have those minutes read to us a second, I'd be fine with that.
Yep, I can do that. Yeah, they're right here.
Again, what's parliamentary?
I do.
Part of the discussion.
We've got the motion, we've got the second.
I answered the question, and I'm trying to just verify that the motion to reconsider is in fact debatable. If I could buy a minute to confirm that under the rules, I will do that.
Yeah.
Can I ask another point of order while you're doing that? Is it appropriate for Councilmember Osmus to make a motion to reconsider since she did not vote in favor of the original motion to table?
It's a fun question.
I will get back to you on that too. I believe the answer is it is appropriate under your rules that you've adopted. But I have this here, and if you give me just a moment, I'll confirm that.
There are times that happens.
Mayor, members of the council, any member may make the motion to reconsider, so the motion was proper and the motion is debatable.
Okay. We've got a motion and a second discussion. Yes, Audrey.
So if I understand that correctly, I would like the minutes read where this has been documented when what we approved.
But do we do that before or after we vote on the motion?
This is part of the discussion.
Right, we have to,
I don't know if we have to move.
we have to
I
approve the
believe,
motion.
Mayor, members of the council, I believe the question is, can the minutes be read into the record as part of the debate on the motion to reconsider? If that would help the council decide whether or not to reconsider the last vote, I would say
Yeah.
yes.
I understand that, but should I be taking ayes and nays on the motion, or should he read that first?
I believe would be appropriate for Mr. Walker to provide the information requested if it would help the council make this decision.
I'm fine with that. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So, public hearing, Tevlin rezoning. So, Chair Marchand opened the public hearing at 6:46 p.m. for the Tevlin rezoning. Director Walker read the overview and the recommendations. Director Walker asked if Mr. Tevlon wanted to speak, and he said he didn't. Dickinson said they are sharing a driveway with the property and asked if the rezoning would change it. Commissioner Dressler commented that more cars, more concerns, and suggested a fence solution and asked for a future solution. Commissioner Dressler thought maybe to replat the lots. Director Walker explained that changing the use will not affect the right of the driveway. Mr. Tevlon said he is planning a new driveway to access his property and solve this issue. There were no more comments. Chair Marchand closed the public hearing at 6:59 p.m. Staff recommendation. Staff recommended in favor of the Tevlon rezoning. Commissioner Basica motion to approve the Tevlon rezoning from residential 2 to general business with no conditions. Commissioner Howalter seconded. Voice vote, Chair Marchand, aye. Commissioner Dressler, aye. Commissioner Buzzio, aye. Commissioner Fields and me, aye. Motion passed.
Thank you.
I still have the concern of having a fence, even though the neighbors, I mean, the rest of the community sees it. I don't know who said it, but it's an entrance to the city. Yeah, Tom.
How's he gonna have parking set up for, 2 or 3 rentals in that house right now? Because Anthony Street is a pretty narrow street, and it's right on, the corner of Highway 12, so there's no parking on the front of the house. And from this picture, you can see that the neighbor across the street already has 2 cars there, and there's 1 car parked in front, and that house has been vacant for, a good 3 years or so.
Yeah, so we don't have like a proposal right now for the remodel, and so like, I mean when that does come, I mean we'll consider it. But right now, I mean that's not something that we took into consideration for the rezone. It was really just the use of the property.
Councilmember Osmus.
Okay, so back to the fence. The planning commission approved it without any conditions. Would we want to consider a condition to have a fence for all of the cars?
Yeah, I think you could. I mean, yeah, like I said, Mr. Teflon has been very accommodating. It's just as far as like, it's really just a matter of approaching him. So I think we can get that done.
Do we think that's appropriate?
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. If I understood you correctly, he doesn't have plans and things drawn up yet.
Yeah, no, not for the house, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it will
Sorry, go.
still need to come before the planning commission with what kind of requirements it would be, access, fence, those types of things?
Yep, for a conditional use permit. Yep.
So he's going to need a conditional use permit even though it's rezoned?
Yeah, so that's the amendment in the general business district. Housing is allowed in the general business district through a conditional use permit. Multifamily housing, yes.
Okay. So I'm sorry, it just feels, I'm going to use the word loosey-goosey kind of feeling right now, like we're doing this and we got to wait and see what's going to happen. And that area is a concern for entrance into the city and how it looks and, other requirements kind of things. So I'm just concerned that we'll end up with a project that is better for that area.
Councilmember Osmus.
Just a clarification on these cars. What are the cars? Are they junk cars? Or is it, he's not selling cars?
No, he is selling cars because so his initial request to us was that he needed a zoning verification because he needed to renew his license with the state. So different level of, I mean, there's a spectrum. The car market is a spectrum. He's serving some market in the car sales market.
Okay, because I was thinking, if I was thinking they were junk cars, if he's selling cars, that'd be no different than any other car dealership. We don't make them put a fence up.
Yeah.
But, okay, just trying to think of how to do this right and still have it look decent.
Councilmember Butterfield.
In your opinion, would it be much better to have this brought back up when we see the plans, what he's going to do for the additional permit needed for him to do all this? Wouldn't it be better if we had it all in front of us all at once?
No, I would say no, just because I think he's like I said, he's already kind of bought the cars, already kind of moving around. Like I said, the future plans for the house, I think, was something that we just wanted an answer to what he's going to be doing with it. And he said that is his intentions. He didn't have a timeline with it. So, that could be could be like a year or so, could be months from now. And so, like Attorney Scott said, there's a 60-day rule kind of on rezonings. So we'd have to make a determination prior to that. And this is, like I said, this was staff came to this recommendation independent of that consideration.
Councilmember Osk.
Thank you, Mayor Reese. Mr. Walker, it seems to me like the question before us is about zoning. And I think you've explained to us why, at least in my opinion, this seems like an acceptable rezone. The comments we've been hearing from the council table now seem to be raising questions about is this an appealing property? What do all of these cars add to the appeal of the property? Should there be a fence to hide that? Concerns over how that property is being used. What does the planning department or other departments of the city have in place to pursue some of those things aside from the question of zoning? If someone's, putting junk cars up there, how would you go about responding to those concerns separate from the question of zoning?
Yeah, certainly. So I was printing out some things today, and I think mixed in with the things I printed out, I think Ryan had about code enforcement inspector. He had about 8 notifications going out specifically about junk cars being parked on lawns. So especially with the thaw over the past week, Ryan would be the person to address those, and he's been he's been expeditiously addressing them. So we've gotten a lot of phone calls. He's been addressing them, getting the notices out. He's pretty quick with the turnaround as well. So I mean, if it is an issue, Mr. Teflon will see us again.
Okay, so there's a process we can go through for that, and the conditional use permit process will answer some of the questions that we might have regarding the housing
Yep,
on this property.
ingress, egress, parking minimums, etc.
Thank you.
All right, we've got a motion in front of us. Are you ready to vote on it,
The motion's to reconsider.
to reconsider?
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries to reconsider.
And Mayor, members of the council, that means that the motion to table that passed previously is now wiped away, so you're back to, you would need a motion now on this agenda item to take
To
action.
move it ahead,
Yep, so you still need your motion, your main motion.
okay? And
I'll make a motion to approve, assign a number, and to publish the ordinance.
Okay. We have a
Second.
We got a second. Got a motion and a second. Discussion? All those, roll call.
And I'm sorry, just to be clear again, so everyone understands, this is the vote now that takes
Two-thirds.
2/3, so 6 members must vote yes for it to pass. Thanks.
Comment.
Before we vote, can we speak now? Ask questions?
I asked for discussion, but
Yeah. Okay. I just got one question. Now, do we have to set up the terms with fences tonight then? Or does that come at a later date? You know, for a period wise that was brought up. You know, for the fences, do we have to build that in tonight? Or does that come at a later date?
So if I may, Mayor, members of the council, I don't know, I have not been involved in the consideration and preparation of this item, but listening to the discussion, I think the question perhaps Planning Director Walker can answer is, if the rezoning ordinance passes, is the use that is currently being made of this property then permitted, or does that use require a conditional use permit where there would be an opportunity to address the fence issue? Because if it's strictly permitted and you don't attach any conditions to the rezoning, then there would be no opportunity to come back later and insist that a fence be constructed for this use. Now, if there's a future plan out there to build housing or further develop this property that does require a conditional use permit, then certainly at that point, you could look at establishing conditions. But again, you can't control whether or not that such a proposal would come forward.
Councilmember Osmus.
Okay. The way I'm understanding it, by the car report, this is cars from an adjacent car dealership. So he just has property, and he's storing cars that are going to be for sale. If we have, what we had discussed, if we have an issue with it starting to be junk cars, then that's another matter, and that'll go through the city.
Rebuilt.
Yep.
Cars that we fixed it up.
Does that work? I mean, that we could reconsider it because of use?
Mayor, council, if at any time, so if this rezoning ordinance passes, and at any time in the future, the use being made of this property violates city regulations, either in this, specific to this zoning district that you're rezoning it to, or broader, like nuisance or blight regulations the city has citywide, of course, then it can be an enforcement issue to bring it into compliance with those regulations. My question, I think, was, is the use, as you're aware of it on this property now, is it permitted once the zoning is changed, once the rezoning ordinance passes, hypothetically assuming it were to pass?
Councilmember Butterfield.
I'd like to offer a friendly amendment to this, moving forward, that he would have to put up a stockade fence where he's going to keep the cars in the box. He can, once he gets his other ducks in a row and how he's going to do this property, he can rip down that fence and go around from there. But, to get rid of the 12 to 18 cars he has there right now scattered all over, I'd like to see him put up a stockade fence where, it's boxed in, people can't see the cars there, and then we could move forward with it. And then when he does decide to move forward with the residential housing, he can remove it and proceed as his plans are as of then.
Councilmember Schultes.
My hesitation with that is, would that be harming his business? And are people gonna look at that as a junkyard then, not a car dealership? Are there people not gonna go to him? Is that gonna harm his business if we require him to put a fence around his business? I don't know that, Councilmember Osmus said we haven't required other car dealerships to do anything like that I'm aware.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Well, from what I've seen from it, they all look like damaged. I think he buys the damaged cars, fixes them up. This is a storage lot overflow till he can get them fixed up to sell. This isn't where he has them for sale right now. This is an overflow lot that he has to fix these cars up, yeah.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, it would be, quite not a junkyard, but it's
Right,
pretty
so it's
close.
not a sales lot, it's a store.
They're not ready to be sold right now to drive on the road.
You've offered an amendment. It needs a second. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Councilmember Osmus.
Mr. Walker, what are the conditions of these cars?
Yeah,
The
so
understanding.
yeah. So like I said, like existing car dealership to the east. So apparently, like from what the neighbors were saying, were that people do just kind of drive up, like, and they're looking for him. And so I'm not sure if he offers like auto repair sales or like what he's doing, but it's not. I think all the cars over there are drivable. It's like I said, there's just a spectrum on the car market, and he's serving a certain like demographic there. I think that's just kind of what it is. But it's a car dealership from what he's saying. And like I said, I mean, he had to get verification from the state. He had to get zoning verification from the state for the car dealership. So I know it says tires and sales, but yeah, that's how Mr. Tevlon would characterize it.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Okay, are there any price tags on these cars sitting on that lot right now? If they say they're for sale, or are they sitting out there without prices on for the public to go look?
Yeah, I can't speak to that. I think one of the things here that this property, and I think a situation like this, like really kind of lays bare, I think is a lot of times just with a lot of the very vibrant and diverse business owner community that we have, and I think the community members that we have, so a lot of these rules are just kind of arbitrary. I think to them, like a lot of the rules to them are arbitrary. And he was buying the property because he was told that, okay, well, I need a place to like put these, and so I'm going to buy this property, expand this, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, like there's this zoning thing. He insisted like, no, this has always been commercial. And I think this really does lay this bare. Some of these rules and like some of these regulations and ordinances are completely foreign to them, no pun intended. But I mean, it really is a struggle for a lot of them. And I think just kind of a lot of the discussion around this, and I think a lot of like, well, is he doing this? And like the traditional customs that we may be used to, just because he does not do them, that does not mean that is not something that does not mean that that's not the business that he is conducting. And I think that just really needs to be said and needs to be observed. He really was acting in good faith. It's just a lot of these rules to him, he was not aware of. And so he was really like, this was an opportunity for him. He was like, I'm doing this because you asked. And so like I said, I think putting up the fence, and I think whatever he needs to do to make the city happy, he is willing to comply. He's made that very clear. It's just on the front end of a lot of this, not familiar to him.
I'm not sure I understand the motion. Councilmember Osmus.
Okay, so I got to have it crystal clear, okay? So I can understand he may buy vehicles that are damaged, and he's selling them damaged. Is that what you're saying?
No. I just think, you could probably get you probably can't get a used car, anymore for about $3,000. But I think my car in high school that I got couldn't have been $5,000. And so I just think there's just different price points and people that are looking for cars. And I think he's appealing to a certain market. That's it.
Okay, I can appreciate that. I guess.
I don't think
I'm
they're
just-
damaged. Damaged.
Okay, I'm just, that's,
basically, yeah.
because that's what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
is that these are, that either they're damaged and they're being stored until they can be fixed, or they're being sold that way. If they're being sold in whatever condition they're in, then it's a car lot. Then I don't think we need to put a fence up. If he's storing them because they've been damaged and they're waiting to get into a body shop or to have body shop fix them somehow, then it's a junkyard in the middle of, coming into Highway 12, and maybe it needs a fence. That's the only clarification I'm looking for.
Yeah, certainly. And I think I'll get that clarity tomorrow with the Teflon, and then going from there. I mean, we'll make that distinction, and then we'll act accordingly. So if junkyard fence, we'll probably tell them to just move the cars. If it's a car lot, it'll be a car lot. So
Councilmember Nelson.
So I'm confused. The friendly amendment, does it fit in with just rezoning? And then my second question is, we already have things in place that you could go issue a ticket and tow the car away or tell him he has to move it, correct? Right now.
yep.
We just need to do it if there are cars that are not drivable, or
Yep.
whatever the rule is with that. But does this friendly amendment fit into the rezone question tonight?
What exactly was the friendly amendment again?
Yeah, I didn't understand it.
Put up like a box where you put all cars
Right.
inside, the fence covers them up, so you can't see them, like a stockade, where you see a fence, not the cars.
But you said something about the apartments too.
Yeah, and because he wants to redo the apartments, get another conditional use permit for that, so we'll be coming back in front then. My question is that we don't put up a fence in this now, how are we gonna do it later on? Or to separate the two properties, one from the car dealership to the rental house, where are the rental people gonna park? If he's using all for car dealership cars, so.
Councilmember Osmus.
Okay, the house to me is a totally separate issue.
Yeah.
Whether or not he decides he's going to renovate that and turn it into whatever, that's a totally separate issue. That will go towards, that'll go to whatever later. Right now, it's just he's trying to come in compliance with our zoning to be able to store these cars there. So we're back to, if they're getting sold, it's a car lot. If they're junkyard, or if they're waiting to be fixed, then there could be a stockade.
Councilmember Oscar.
I'm just going to come back to my comments from earlier that the question before us is a zoning question. I think as we move further into, is there a fence, is there not? I feel like that's getting us far away from the zoning question. I appreciate what the staff has told us, and what I think Councilmember Nelson has just reminded us of is there are current codes that would allow us to require that they be in compliance with things like blight, with, if these cars become a problem. That's already out there. So for that reason, I'll be voting against the motion.
Robert?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. I just wanted to kind of do a procedural recap where we are. So at this stage, there's a main motion. The main motion was to adopt the ordinance, assign a number, and publish it.
Right.
Then Councilmember Butterfield offered an amendment, which would condition the adoption of that ordinance on a requirement that the property owner construct a fence and store the vehicles on the property behind the fence. I think there was a second to the motion to amend. So the next vote that would happen would be a vote on whether to amend the main motion, so that then the motion before you would be to adopt the ordinance conditioned on that requirement to construct a fence.
That would be the second vote.
So vote one is just whether to amend the main motion or not. Vote 2 would then be, well, actually, before I get there, the issue then would be if the amendment passes so that the main motion then is including the condition, in my opinion, you would need to republish and continue the public hearing because of a charter requirement that says after the public hearing, the council may amend the ordinance, but if it changes it substantially, you would have to republish and hold a new public hearing. So it's perfectly fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that. It's just another procedural step in this case. But I wanted to make sure everyone understood what the ramifications are of the motion to amend that's on that you would address first.
All right. Councilmember Butterfield.
Now, one more question on this. You said he was all in favor of putting up fences if he had to, correct?
He's pretty approachable. Just kind of like essentially whatever like we ask of him, he's willing to do. So
if with this, we're asking him to put up fence, we'll put up fence and move forward and do whatever he wants, correct?
I mean, I can't really speak for him, but yeah, I would say so from my dealings with him up until this point. He's been pretty compliant.
I'll call the vote.
All
The
right.
amendment.
This is for the amendment proposed by Councilmember Butterfield. And that's just a simple vote. Yea or nay?
On the motion to amend,
Yeah,
that's a simple voice vote.
okay.
Majority would prevail.
All those in favor of the motion or the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, the motion fails. Then it's back to the motion to adopt, assign a number, and publish it. And we have that introduced and seconded. So is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien. Butterfield.
No.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
7 ayes, 1 nay.
And that's how
The-
sausage is made.
The motion passes. Thank you, Justice. Thank you, Robert.
Communication from the planning commission, enforcement.
All right, Luann, I hope this is simpler. Motion to approve employee policies.
Yes. So Mayor and Council, good evening. A month ago, we brought forth the first half of our employee personnel policy handbook with updates. Again, just to remind you that a lot of the stuff that we did was cleanup as far as changing all the he, she's to they, theirs, and those kinds of things. And then there were some significant changes to policy language, went through administrative review, went through the League of Minnesota Cities template, and also went through legal review. And so what I'm bringing tonight for a vote from you is the updates for the second half of that policy. So if there's any questions,
And this is a motion. All right, Carl?
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions on some of the things in here. Page 28, 29, on, under earnings and use, the second paragraph. An employee will not earn any vacation leave for any pay period unless they are employed by the city on the last scheduled workday of the pay period. So if they, I mean, I know this is a small thing that would probably rarely happen, but if they quit on Thursday and the end of the payday is Friday, they'd lose whatever vacation they would have accrued for that 2 weeks, basically.
the way the language reads, and one of the staff people brought this up as well, and it's a League of Minnesota Cities template language, and basically it's saying that we accrue a certain amount of sick leave and vacation every pay period. If you leave in the middle of the pay period, you would only get up until your last day. You would not get through the whole pay period.
Okay, so just,
That's
you
the
still
intent.
get credit for the time that you've worked, just not for the full.
Yeah, that's the
Okay,
intent of those.
okay.
Yep.
Okay,
And then on sorry, it's a big document.
yes it is.
On our copy, it's page 55, or in the document, page 105 out of 199. Under job-related training and conferences, continuing education, again, paragraph 2 there at the top of the page. Continuing education or similar courses taken by an employee in order to maintain licensing or other professional accreditation will not be eligible for payment. So in order to maintain the license required for your job, that comes out of your own pocket? Is that?
No. If it's an accreditation or a certificate or licensure that's required for you to do your job, it'll be paid for by the city. If it's something that you're doing on your own that you want to have like we have some people that want to have CPR training and it's not required for their job, then they would be responsible to pay for that.
Okay, because the way I read it, continuing education or similar courses taken by an employee in order to maintain licensing. So,
But you got to finish reading it.
Yeah.
Under this policy, unless the subject matter relates directly to the employee's duties, even though the employee may be required to maintain such licensing or accreditation, is a component of the employment with the city. So unless the subject matter is part of the employee's duties, so if it's a conference or accreditation that is part of their duties, they would get reimbursed for that or paid for that.
okay,
That is our policy and practice right currently. So this is just trying to state it more clearly. It's not to try to confuse or make something change anything. So just update the language.
and then I did have one more question on the cell phone usage, where this is concerning to me, since with some of the things going on, we've received, not just me, all of us, I'm sure, have received numerous things on our personal cell phones from people, that my phone could be confiscated by the state. I just, maybe this isn't the time to bring this up here, but I mean, we're using our personal cell phones for city business. I just wonder if we should have city cell phones for council business. That given that paragraph on page 59, regardless of who pays the bill, cell phone records about city can be subject to the Minnesota Government Data Practices Act. So,
That's true. And emails as well, so.
but we have our tablets for city emails, but. So again, that may be a whole separate issue, but I just, that caught my eye, that it's kind of concerning that they could take my cell phone and just, look through it for stuff.
Investigation or
Right.
something, yeah.
I know the county commissioners either use their private phone or they have a county phone, and it's up to them which they want to do. Then some of them have both, some of them have just one, some of them have a county one or a personal one. So,
Those are the 3
Okay,
points I wanted clarification on. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Reese. You started and you said some of them were just kind of cleanup or various things, but there were some that were substantive changes.
Yep.
Are we missing any in here that are substantive changes that we should be discussing? Respectful workplace and some of those, it says added, but I believe there was something in there before. I just wondered if you could speak to any of them
Sure.
where there have been significant changes.
I sure
to.
will, yep. So previously, in the employee handbook, we had a sexual harassment policy and a respectful workplace policy. And in discussing and looking through that, the League of Minnesota Cities said that typically they put both of those policies out there, and cities are to choose one or the other, whichever one best fits your city. So to check with our legal authority, which I did, and the respectful workplace is the one that has a broader base for it, and it works better for the city of Willmar. So typically is the one that we have used since I've been here anyways. And so we're taking out the sexual harassment prevention policy, as all of those issues are addressed in the respectful workplace policy. So that would be substantive, and the whole respectful workplace policy is now in the handbook. It's not a standalone policy.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Luann. City Administrator, you're going to talk to us about finance, interim director.
Good evening, council. So as you all are aware, our Finance Director, Steve Oken's last day is this Friday, the 21st, and so we've been looking for an interim Finance Director, and we have asked Abdo, which is a private accounting firm, and we also have a local resident, that Bill Fensky, that was the chief finance officer for the CentraCare Rice Memorial Hospital over the past few years. And Mr. Fensky's proposal, he's got two proposals. He'd go with Proposal A, which is May through August for $135 an hour, September through December at $145, and anything after at $155, and that's only if we would go that long. Otherwise, regardless of the length of the engagement, it would be $145 an hour. Now with Abdo, it's a little more fuzzy with their pricing, and it probably is also, it will be more. Bill will be local, of course, and will spend 20 to 30 hours, depending on the workload, each week, so it's very flexible. With Abdo, we would have probably a partner here for an hourly rate of $445, probably once a week, otherwise virtually. And we could have a senior manager here other times, or a lesser manager also for lesser times, or a senior associate here also, to do our various tasks depending on what the workload is. So we are also in the process of hiring an accountant, just an interim accountant to handle just the day-to-day tasks. So that's where we're at. We figure that, the interim finance director position is at $33,180 for a weekly fee for Abdo. So otherwise, it would be Bill Fensky for $135 to $145. And I'm sure that we will have a finance director before August of this year in place. Our closing of finance directors closes at the end of the month here. We have some applications already, and we will be conducting a couple of interviews tomorrow night. So I would say that by the May 15th meeting, we will have a director proposal to you. And then they would take probably 2 weeks to a month before they get here, so mid-June probably at the latest. Any questions?
Questions or motion? Councilmember Nelson.
Did I hear you correctly that you're interviewing before that it's closed?
Yes, we'll be interviewing as they come in, so that we can continue this process without having too much of a delay, so that we can get you somebody before the May 15th date.
I'll make a motion.
For
For which? For Fensky or for Abdo?
Fensky.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion. Wow. Okay, I'll go here. Councilmember Osk.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for choosing me first. I just would like clarification on the proposal. I'm assuming we're looking at Bill Fensky's Proposal A, Is that accurate? Okay. And then, Ms. Valiant, could you tell us who is on the interview committee for the director position?
It would be Councilman Fagerly, Kyle Box, myself, and Carol Cunningham.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nelson, then,
He answered my proposal.
okay, Councilmember Nelson.
No, I'm still confused with how you're, before you look at all of them, before you're through, and even the time frame that you're discussing, and will human resources be sitting in on the interview also?
No, because we have 4 people that are already sitting in them. But she has recommendations to me also.
Did you have a question, Carl?
No, it was answered. Thank you.
Okay. And we have a motion and a second. Is any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Mayor, this is a roll call.
Ah. Okay, roll call.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
Motion passes, or resolution passes. All right, stay right there, because you're going to tell us about professional services extension with BKV.
Yes. So I'm asking that the council approve staff to continue working with BKV. I'm sorry, I do not have their proposal. Mr. Schwartzman was supposed to get that to me today, and I have not received it. But we certainly will continue that conversation also. But the reason for this is because there has been the conversation that the city should consider a joint building or adjoining building with the utilities. And with that, then we would have to have some kind of schematic to go with that and an architect for that design of that building, if that's the way the city wants to go with the city hall. The utilities does not have an architectural design at all for their building that they are proposing. So this would also provide them with a design for their building to give an idea as to, they know what their facility needs are. And BKV could take that information and design, like you had seen, site plans for the future of having a joint building with them. Otherwise, there is also the community center and the city hall location at JCPenney that is still under consideration. And I know that you heard earlier from Mr. Tuisha, but it also has to do with the fact that they can give you a proposal as a package, and I believe that's what they're planning on doing. But the city still needs to understand if they wanted to go a different route, what that would look like. And I believe Mr. Scott discussed that with the council on the process of having, that we still would have to have some kind of baseline also, even if we went with a package deal type sort of thing with Willmar 10. And then also, we also have the consideration of probably keeping the community center where it is, along with just a structural review of the community center and a possible remodel of the entire space of that. So those are, council's got a lot of options going out there and a lot of decisions to make. And this would just, I would hope, help in those decision processes. You already know what some of those costs are based on the square footages that BKV has provided. And, but this would just give you a little bit more further information.
Okay. Questions? Councilmember Nelson.
You haven't gotten a quote for them for these services?
No, I haven't. He was supposed to get that to me today so I could hand that to you. So you certainly would probably want to table this until, you know, if you want to table it until our work session or to the, you know, well, actually the next one's going to be May 1st, so, because we don't have a work session in between that, so.
Just based off from the conversation with him and what our previous contract with, what do you expect that the additional services might look like?
I would say probably up to 15,000
Okay.
because it's 3 separate designs. Yep, up to. He had previously given us an idea just, and this was based on the conversation when council had back in 2020, when that fall of 2020, when council was approached by Willmar 10 to do that, to do the same project. I believe his proposal just for the J.C. Penney site at that time to Brian Gramitz was $9,000.
So we could make a motion tonight to approve up to, and if that
Yes.
doesn't fit in, you'd have to bring it back to us?
Correct.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none?
Yep.
Oh, Justin?
So again, looking to clarify, the motion is for all 3 of these concepts to be rendered. And you still believe all 3 concepts will be rendered for under 15?
I think it could.
Councilmember Butterfield?
Since we're doing this, is there going to be a date that they're going to come back with these numbers? Because I know the Wilmer 10's under what, May
May 15th.
15th? Are they going to have enough time, or are we going to be able
I'm
to
not
extend
sure.
Wilmer 10's
I would like-
till this is done, so we
you
can
know-
all hear it all at one night and not be dragging this on?
Otherwise, you might have to have a special meeting after the May 15th one. Because I can't say for sure. I'd like him to have it, but as you know, we're only 4 weeks away from that.
Yeah.
So that's, could be difficult.
Well, we have to make a motion to prolong here in Wilmer 10, since we voted on that, or, if we just
You
contacted
wouldn't have
them?
to.
Just said, hey, this came up, are you okay with?
Yeah, you still are going to
putting
have
it
to
off
have
A little bit?
some of this information. And Robert, if you want to clarify that information that we're going to need even just to move forward with just the J.C. Penney site, that'd be appreciated.
Yeah, okay, Mayor, members of the council, the May 15th meeting date is important because that's the date that the council postponed essentially choosing the site for the City Hall Community Center project to when this came up last month. So at that time, the council decided to essentially table the issue until the May 15th meeting in order to allow the Willmar 10 group to refine their numbers and bring them back to the council so you had the best information to make the decision. As I understand the status of the council's continuing due diligence on that question of essentially where to locate the city hall and/or community center, there's basically 3 options under consideration. One being the J.C. Penney location proposed by Willmar 10, another being the existing community center site for a joint facility, and now a third being the potential to partner on a joint facility with the utilities, even though I don't believe that one's tied to a specific site.
Correct.
So this is, I think, all a question for the council is a matter of timing. You have kind of identified the May 15th meeting as the date you wanted that decision to be brought back, that agenda item to be brought back for you to make a decision on the site. If the council believes May 15th is unrealistic, given the path that this effort to evaluate options has taken, you could certainly give direction and pass a motion to bring this back at a future meeting. But essentially, I think to Leslie's main question, what would the council need to do? And this is in the context of the hypothetical Willmar 10 option at the J.C. Penney site, would be if the city council were to ultimately select that site as the best option for the city, the question that I know we've looked at previously and we've looked at again recently is, are there any issues with that proposal, given that the city would not be entering into a, competitively bid contract for any construction needed to bring that site up to the city's requirements? The proposal had been that you would be entering into a purchase agreement that would instead require the improvements to be made by the developer before closing. Is that okay for the city to do? And my advice has been and continues to be, that is probably okay, assuming the city can make certain findings that you're not trying to do a, dodge around the competitive bidding law. And in order to make those findings, you would need to make an evaluation of what other options are available to the city. You're doing the due diligence. You'd essentially just have to make the findings of the result of your analysis of what options are available. And essentially, you'd be making a finding that this option, again, hypothetically, if the Willmar 10 JCPenney's proposal emerges as your preferred option, you would need to make findings about why entering into a real estate purchase agreement for a property that will require it to be improved before closing is the best option, and it isn't just an effort to, evade competitive bidding requirements. I think you'll be able to do that. I certainly can help you with that. But having the services of your selected architect to help you with that evaluation could be useful.
Okay, Councilmember Osmus.
Okay, on the structural review of the current community center location, how does that take place?
The architect can do that also.
Okay, we also talked about having a structural review of the JCPenney's location.
That was done last week.
Okay,
Councilmember Butterfield.
My question would be towards Kelly. Kelly, would the Willmar 10 be fine putting this off a little bit underneath the timeline so that we could see all of them? Because then, if I won't be able to vote without seeing every little aspect that we have. Because
Right.
May 15th, I will abstain from any vote,
There,
per location now with the utilities wants back in on this. And I want to give the Willmar 10 the professional courtesy to let them know, hey, we're looking at possibly now utilities and making a date on May 15th without having all the information. Would that be feasible for you guys to push this back off a little bit for you to get all your ducks in a row? before your
Councilmember
presentation?
Osmus.
but we don't know that we need to push it back yet.
no, we don't.
BKV could have this information for us
They
on the
could,
15th.
they could.
Okay.
Councilmember Justin Boss.
Justin Boss is a good guy. I
Yeah, he
appreciate that. I've been called much worse. It seems to me that I can imagine a scenario. I don't know for sure that it's going to happen, but I can imagine a scenario where we're not making a final decision on May 15th, 16th. I forget the exact date. Is
May 15th is the
yes.
council date.
And so just because we have a deadline for the Willmar 10 to provide us that information by May 15th does not mean for sure that we're done making the decision on this process, in my opinion.
Councilmember.
I think it's been a long night. I think that Mr. Scott nailed it with the due diligence. I think I know this has been going on ad nauseum, but we need to make sure that we're doing what's right for the city. And if we need to take a serious look at this next option, I think we need to do that. And yes, there has to be a final point where we say we're making a choice here, but I think this is a viable option that we really need to look at. And so I would vote in favor of a motion to continue with BKV to look at this.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Well, to really get this going, give Willmar 10, kudos and everything else like that, we need to see hard numbers, Plan A, Plan B, Plan C. I'd like to see that all in one night so we can have her talk about it not have 1 month from now, 2 months from now, another one 3 months from now. If we get all this set up in one night, we can hear all the pros and cons against each of them and finally get this made down, because now if we sit there and wait for utilities to come along, then somebody else may come involved. And then now we got 4 sites, and now we're kicking down the road even further. If Willmar 10's willing to hold off on the May 15th deadline till we have everything in front of us, and it'll give them a little bit more time to, get their numbers together, I'd like to see it all done in one night, every single one of them, and go from there.
In order
It
to
makes
do
more
that, we
sense.
need the services of BKV.
So first, we have to approve having BKV start this
That's right.
process.
Right.
All right? We've got a motion and a second. Discussion. This is a simple motion, right?
So now we've added money to it, so then it's a resolution.
It is a resolution?
Yes,
Because
it will
we've
be
added money.
Up to 15,000. So it'll
Okay.
will be a resolution.
So we need a resolution.
So it'll be a roll call vote.
So do we have a motion?
Yes.
Yes, we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
How do we do that then?
Councilmember Nelson made a motion to approve the action to consider professional services with BKV Group up to $15,000.
Okay, so that
And it was
makes it a
seconded by
resolution?
Davis.
Yes.
Yep, because there's
All right.
money involved.
All right, fine. Roll call.
Councilmember Schultes,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Butterfield,
All right.
Osmus,
Aye.
Bagerly,
Aye.
Ask,
Hi.
Nelson,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Gary, you gonna be easy on us? 2023 engineering services contract.
I think it's going to be a resolution, so I'll tell you that right now. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you, kind of excited because we got a lot of street projects going on, and thanks to you guys for supporting this, and this has really been exciting. But so before you, I am here to present to you, we need to adopt the resolution amending a contract with Bolton Mink, an engineering professional service agreement with Bolton Mink, increasing the contract by $992,735. And in review of that, back in June of '22, we entered into a contract for $1,940,560. And then we came before you in November and where you ordered the preliminary engineering report. And at that point, they presented a figure of $3.4 million and some change. And now after the engineering was completed, the final improvement projects engineering is $2,933,295.00. So we need to amend the contract from June to match the numbers today. So I'd stand for any questions and hopefully I can answer them.
So is this for work that has already been done?
Yes, so basically what it was is, so when we initially looked at the projects back in June, we weren't really deep into the projects and what we were going to end up doing. And just for an example, Gorton Avenue went from an overlay to a reconstruction. So with that increases the engineering costs. There was some water main that we have to bore under the dam. And then there's some concrete paving. And also we looked at the Voss Park drainage situation that came forth after we had initiated these projects. And each project had some issues that changed the original anticipation of the project.
Yeah, Councilmember Nelson.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution approving amendment number 1 to the 2023 street and other improvement project engineering professional service agreement with Bolton and Mink, increasing the contract by $992,735.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion? Councilmember Osmus?
I don't know if we have to be concerned about this at this point, but when you talked about Voss Park, water issues and some of the other storm, can any of that, some of this be taken on with the local option sales tax?
I guess at this point, what we're doing, pardon me?
Do we care at this point?
Well, I think we're looking at some of those funding sources for that.
Right.
And I don't know if you understand what was gonna happen with Voss Park. So right now, Voss Park is drained with a field tile that runs across kind of kitty corner from Voss Park to as you would speak, kitty corner across the cemetery, across the West Central Steel property, all the way across, almost to where the railroad tracks and the creek come in. It dumps out like about 20 yards north of the railroad tracks. Well, what they're gonna do is intercept some of that water, and so when we have a bigger rainfall, it's gonna allow some of our water, instead of having to go through that field tile, it's gonna hydraulically go towards the east and dump into the creek at another spot in a bigger tile, or through a bigger pipe that we're at in there. And that will work on bigger rainfalls, and once it settles out, then it'll go down. So it's mainly designed for the bigger, without having to, at some point, we'll have to look at possibly improving the rest of that tile across there.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we have a resolution before us. Roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Bakerly.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes. Next, got 8 resolutions, all separate actions for 2023 street improvement projects and adopt as bid budgets. So the first one is awarding project 2301A to Dunnick Incorporated in the amount of $5,997,387.50. Gary, you cleaned up. I didn't look up and it said Gary was going to take care of it, so I thought he was still there. Okay, Jared.
Oh, no problem. So you hit the nail on the head with that first resolution. I did want to inform the council that on March 29th, we did open bids for that project, and we received 8 bids for the project, so that's outstanding. Number of bids for a city project. And the number is below the engineer's estimate, and staff is recommending adoption of that resolution by a roll call.
I'll make that
Introduce.
motion.
Second.
Are these are all
Roll call.
roll calls? Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Bakerly.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes. Go ahead, Jared.
Yep. The second resolution before you this evening is the as-bid budget for the Gorton Avenue Area Improvement Project. One thing that I did want to call out, because there was a question earlier about it, the financing associated with that is broken down in these as-bid budgets. There was a question about the lost monies, similar to last year. When new storm sewer is added or improvements are made to a system, that is the only time that the lost funds have been allocated towards these projects. So in case of the Voss Park improvements and the larger tile that Gary was referring to, those costs are identified in the as-bid budget. And with that, staff is recommending adoption of the resolution for the as-bid budget for the Gorton Avenue Area Improvement Project.
Okay,
So moved.
we got a motion,
Second.
a second. Discussion? Councilmember Butterfield.
Now, on all these, we received multiple bids, right? Because I'm only seeing, one, the awarded bids. I think this was on last agenda, wasn't it? Or,
Yeah, we saw.
Yeah, so we received 8 bids for the Gorton Avenue
Yeah,
Improvement
that was
Project.
on the last meeting. We've seen the numbers, correct?
They're in here too.
Okay. Okay. One second.
Just a few more down.
Did you?
I didn't go down far enough.
Right there.
Made the motion.
You made the motion. We got a
Yeah,
second.
I'm good.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus,
Aye.
Bakerly,
Aye.
Osk,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Schultes,
Aye.
O'Brien, Butterfield.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes. Go ahead, Jared.
All right, the next resolution in your packet this evening is for the 2301 C improvements, which is Irene, Augusta, and Mary. On March 30th, we received 5 bids for the project, and the low bid and what is included in your resolution this evening is to award the 2301C project to Dunick Inc. in the amount of $4,046,267.46.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Oh, okay, okay. Where are we?
Motion and second.
Discussion.
Motion and a second. Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly,
Aye.
Osk,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes. Go ahead, Jared.
All right, the second item associated with the 2301C project is to pass a resolution adopting the as-bid budget for that improvement.
Motion to approve?
We got a motion to approve.
Second.
We got a second. Discussion? Questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien. Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes.
Next item in your packet this evening is related to the 2303 project, which is the 23rd Street area improvement. On March 28th, we received 5 bids for the improvements, and the resolution before you this evening is recommending awarding the project to Dunick Inc. in the amount of $1,482,695.09.
So moved.
Second?
Motion and a second. Discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Abstain.
Osk.
Aye.
We have 7 ayes, 1 abstain.
That passes. You're on a roll.
All right. The next item in your packet related to that same project is to adopt the as-bid budget for the improvement, $1,842,200.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion? Councilmember Fagerly.
Jared, what is that? It says parking lot, Sunrise Path, and parking lot.
That I believe is the next item.
Oh.
Okay, any other questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien. Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes.
All right, the next project is project number 2304, which is the Block 22 parking lot and the Sunrise Path. On March 28th, we received 3 bids for the project, and the low bid was submitted by Joe Riley Construction in the amount of $323,580.60. And staff is recommending the adoption of that resolution, awarding the project to Joe Riley Construction.
So move.
Okay, we got a motion,
Second.
got a second, discussion.
I think I was ahead of myself, so,
No problem.
or behind, I don't know.
No questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien. Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Bagerly.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
One more. That passes.
All right, and the final item for this agenda item is the as-bid budget for the Block 22 and Sunrise Path Improvements Project.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion. Councilmember Nelson.
Just clarification, the budget is more than the bid. Is that where money's coming from somewhere else?
Yeah, so in terms of the as-bid budget, that includes all improvements that consist of administration, engineering, bonding costs, things of that nature. So that's why it is higher than the bid amount. Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Bagerly.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes. Are you going to do the next one? You aren't going to switch with Gary again?
No.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Council. The next item in your agenda is related to the seal coating improvements for 2023. We received 3 bids for the improvements, and the low bid and the recommendation before you this evening is to award that project to Asphalt Surface Technologies Corporation out of St. Cloud, Minnesota, in the amount of $388,804.50. The areas to be seal coated were included in your packet this evening, so I won't go through them specifically, but definitely a competitive market with not only the street reconstructions and overlays, but also these seal coat improvement bids. So that's good news.
All right.
Move to accept.
We got a motion and a second. Discussion. Audrey?
Thank you, Mayor Reese. It indicates that we only have 70,000 budgeted for this, but that we're going to use the city's general levy fund. Just seeking clarification with where that money actually is coming from, what pocket that is.
Sure. So I'm going to defer to Administrator Valiant because I'm pretty sure I have the answer, but I want to make sure that it gets
You have
correct.
The answer. Because Jared's so smart. Last year, we had planned on seal coating up to about $350,000. And we did not go through with that project because it got delayed some by the contractor themselves. And so we did not enter into that contract. And so this is a carryover from last year. And then with this year's budget also.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Resolution? Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Bagerly.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Schultes.
Aye.
O'Brien. 8 ayes, 0 nays.
That passes. Thank you, Jared. Gary?
I got a question.
Thank you, Council.
Yes.
Don't leave yet, Jared.
Okay.
So the 13th Street, Grace Avenue, and Rice Avenue, we pulled, but we're paying for engineering.
Say that again.
The 13th Street, Grace Avenue, and Rice Avenue area,
Yes.
we had engineering done.
Yes.
Pulled the project.
Yes. That's correct.
So next year, how much of a deal do we get for the engineering?
Amazing. So just to give council an idea of where we're at with that project. So yes, that project did not move forward to bids, but the design is complete. Staff is currently working on the CIP, which we had a 5-year in place. We're extending that out a number of years per some agreements that are in place with Willmar Municipal Utilities, and working closely with them to identify their budgets as well as the city budgets and make sure that we're taking care of the highest priority needs. So that project design is complete. Once council moves that forward to construction, that's at the point then when any modifications to any agreements would be made at that point. So as of the action taken previously, that project is complete, the design is complete, and everything else associated with that piece of the project is deleted or on hold, if you will, until it moves forward. So, yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jared.
Thanks, Council.
All right. Justice, removing inactive planning commissioners.
All right. Evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Yeah, so tonight is just coming before you guys as notifying you all of 2 planning commissioners who have missed in excess of 3 consecutive planning commission meetings with essentially no call, no show. Reached out to both of them multiple times by email, called multiple times, made contact, asked if they would like to resign, and just kind of nothing. So currently right now the planning commission sits at 9 members, and so our quorum is at 6. So makes it really hard when we have like some flexibility. There's people who travel for work, there are people who have kids, there are people who have emergencies come up. I mean, all of these things have been reasons that we have not had quorum consistently, on top of like freak winter storms, keeping people out for various reasons. But yeah, so just tonight coming before you guys asking to remove 2 inactive planning commission members. Now, turn it over to you for any questions.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We got a motion and a second discussion. This means I got to appoint 3 more.
2 more, I'd appreciate it.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Justice. Community Pride announcement. Mike.
I'd just like to say a big thank you to all our law enforcement people out there. It's been a real tough time for them lately, not just here in Minnesota, but also Wisconsin. Been going through some tough times. And I also like to thank the C6 Task Force for all the work they do. And just all law enforcement in general and their families. Because that families are a big part of this. They have to sit home and wait. So just a thank you for all of the work they do.
Thanks, Mike. Audrey?
I think it would be appropriate for us to say thank you to Mr. Okens for his years of service to the city of Willmar. And I know there's a retirement party, I think, planned for you this Friday from 2 to 4. Is that correctly? So I'd just like to say thank you and wish you the very best.
2 to 4 at the fire station. Thank you, Steve. I'll throw in my 2 cents worth on the mayor's prayer breakfast, which will be May 4th at the conference center, 6:30 in the morning. So would love to see all of you there.